Hey everyone, Will here. So for today's video, we are going to be analyzing the Daughters of Bilitis. That means we're going to be going over all aspects of this civil rights organization, including the origins of this group, the importance of this group, and the legacy of this group. So without further ado, let's begin. So the Daughters of Bilitis was the first lesbian political and civil rights organization that was established in the United States. This group was originally created as a social alternative to LGBTQ-friendly bars, which were constantly subjected to unpredictable raids by some high-ranking officials in law enforcement. So the story behind the Daughters of Bilitis begins after the conclusion of World War II. At this time, anti-communist sentiments quickly became associated with the personal secrets of individuals who worked for the US government. In 1950, these sentiments grew larger in scope when the US State Department immorally deemed homosexual individuals to be security risks. The State Department defended this stance by claiming that such individuals were vulnerable to blackmail. In an effort to castigate LGBTQ individuals from polite society, a series of major policy implementations were enacted. Such policies included firing government officials who were suspected of being homosexual, politically motivated raids on gay bars, and the enactment of laws that prohibited cross-dressing of any kind. These policies made many LGBTQ individuals begin to hide their identities in fear of being rejected by mainstream society, or worse. During these times of hardship, many LGBTQ Americans began to seek out social groups that would accept them for who they were. In 1955, two women involved in a romantic relationship, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon, told a gay male couple that they were hoping to meet other lesbians. The gay male couple ended up referring Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon to another lesbian couple. One of the members of this couple suggested that the group create a social club that would act as a safe haven for lesbian women. In October of 1955, 4 lesbian couples met in San Francisco to provide each other with a social outlet. A big priority for the women was to have a place to dance, as dancing with a member of the same sex was illegal at this time. The group also sought to aid lesbian women who were struggling with self-loathing that was brought upon them by society. The name for the newly created club was selected in its second official meeting. The title word of Daughters was chosen to invoke association with other iconic American social clubs, such as the Daughters of the American Revolution. The club also used Bilitis in its title as a way of paying homage to the fictional lesbian contemporary of the Greek poet Sappho, who first held the name. The character of Bilitis first appeared in French poet Pierre Louis's 1894 poetry collection, The Songs of Bilitis. Earlier members of the Daughters of Bilitis tried to recruit members into their ranks, while simultaneously keeping the mission and true purpose of their organization a secret. The organization also used pins to help members identify other participants. In 1957, the Daughters of Bilitis filed the charter for non-profit corporation status, using a vague description of their club's purpose in order to avoid scrutiny over their mission to provide support for LGBTQ Americans. Within a year of the group's creation, there were a grand total of 16 active members in the Daughters of Bilitis. At this time, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon decided that they wanted to expand the social impact of their organization. In order to accomplish this goal, the two women gave their organization a mission statement that outlined the 4 major goals of their group. This mission statement consisted of 4 main goals that the organization had written down as follows: education of the variant, education of the public, participation in research projects, and investigation of the penal code as it pertains to the homosexual. Daughters of Bilitis New York chapter leader Barbara Giddings had importantly noted that the word variant was used instead of lesbian, since lesbian was a word that had an extremely negative connotation to it in 1956. By 1959, the Daughters of Bilitis had established organized chapters in New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Rhode Island, along with their original chapter in San Francisco. As their organization began to grow, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon were prohibited from advertising their meetings in several local newspapers. In order to accommodate for this, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon, both of whom had backgrounds in journalism, began to print a newsletter that they would distribute to all of the women whom they knew. In October of 1956, this newsletter became known as The Ladder. Del Martin would become the first president of this newsletter, while Phyllis Lyon would become the first editor for the paper. The latter was notable for being the first nationally distributed lesbian publication in the United States, while also being one of the first official publications to publish statistics on LGBTQ Americans when they mailed surveys nationwide to their readership base. As the Daughters of Bilitis worked to end the stigmas associated with being gay, the organization quickly became a major target for San Francisco mayoral candidate Russell Walden, who distributed information that the incumbent mayor George Christopher was making the city safe for people whom he referred to as sexual deviants. Due to the widespread scrutiny that the organization faced, its leaders chose to only have 2 copies of the subscription list for the latter. This was done to protect the identities of subscribers, while better ensuring safety for supporters and members of the LGBTQ community. In 1960, the Daughters of Bilitis held their first convention in San Francisco. This convention was advertised on local radio stations and in newspapers. The convention was also promoted by San Francisco Chronicle columnist Herb Caen, who poked fun at Russell Walden while promoting the convention itself. In the paper, Caen wrote, "Russell Walden, if no one else, will be interested to learn that the Daughters of Bilitis will hold their national convention here, May 27th to May 30th. They're the female counterparts of the Mattachine Society, and one of the convention highlights will be an address by attorney Morris Lowenthal, titled The Gay Bar in the Courts. Oh brother, I mean sister. Come to think of it, I don't know what I mean." This iconic blurb was later reprinted in the March edition of the latter. In total, about 200 women attended the first convention. The convention included a series of prominent speakers, including a presentation that was given by the American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU. During the event, the Daughters of Bilitis also gave awards to men who were allies, naming these men the Sons of Bilitis. In 1962, the Daughters of Bilitis held their second national convention in Los Angeles. This convention was notable for being shown on TV, which made it one of the first American national broadcasts that ever covered an LGBTQ civil rights movement. Following this, the Daughters of Bilitis held a convention every 2 years until 1968. Despite forging a distinct identity as an advocacy group, the Daughters of Bilitis were still notable for occasionally co-hosting events with other prominent LGBTQ advocacy groups. On January 1st, 1965, the Daughters of Bilitis held a mutual aid fundraising ball at California Hall with support from several other advocacy groups, including the Council on Religion and the Homosexual, the Mattachine Society, and the Society for Individual Rights. When over 600 people attended the event, a confrontation emerged when some officers representing the San Francisco police arrived at the scene. Evander Smith, a high-profile lawyer representing the Daughters of Bilitis, and fellow lawyer Herb Donaldson were both arrested alongside 2 heterosexual lawyers named Elliot Layton and Nancy May, both of whom were supporting the rights of the participants to attend the ball. When news of the story came out, there was a swift condemnation of the arrests that were made, leading 25 of the most prominent lawyers in San Francisco to join the defense team for the 4 lawyers. The participation of such skilled lawyers in this case was cited by many historians to be a major turning point for the gay rights movement in the West Coast of the United States. While the Daughters of Bilitis played a major role in the movement for LGBTQ rights, they were also pivotal in the movement for women's rights as well. In the mid-1960s, feminism became a very high priority for many of the members of the Daughters of Bilitis. In 1966, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon joined the National Organization for Women, urging readers of the latter publication to join as well. In 1968, longtime Daughters of Bilitis member Helen Zandos, who had become editor of the latter after the former editor Barbara Giddings left, chose to resign herself, passing her duties on to writer and poet Barbara Grier. As the new editor, Grier had big ambitions for the future of the publication. As the leading editor, Grier made a few controversial decisions, such as when she printed additional copies of the publication's subscriber list alongside Daughters of Bilitis president Rita Laporte. This was a decision that Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon strongly objected to in the name of privacy. Despite this, Grier also received praise for many of her accomplishments in her time working for the paper, including her work in expanding every section of the magazine and doubling the size of the publication itself. In 1970, after facing major financial difficulties, the Daughters of Bilitis officially ended its national operations. By 1972, the latter had also stopped publishing as well. Despite these closures, some local chapters of the Daughters of Bilitis actually continued until 1995. While the organization itself ended, its foundation and wild success were pivotal in inspiring the creation of several new lesbian and feminist organizations all across the country. Overall, the Daughters of Bilitis played a big role in the LGBTQ civil and political rights movement throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. Today, many of the remaining organizational records from the Daughters of Bilitis can be found at the GLBT Historical Society, a nonprofit archive and research center in San Francisco. Additionally, the Lesbian Her Story Archives hosts the Red Dot Collection, which holds a wide range of information pertaining to the New York chapter of the Daughters of Bilitis. Finally, Boston's The History Project, an organization dedicated to sharing New England's LGBTQ history, houses the Boston Daughters of Bilitis collection, which holds the Boston chapter's remaining organizational records. Thank you for checking out our video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more additional content. If you have any ideas for a future video topic, please leave a comment and let me know what you would like to see me cover next. I'm really hoping to grow this channel and provide you all with more content in the future, and your support means the world to me. Thanks, everyone.